Hello everyone, we are on chapter 7 and I'm on paragraph 4. So let's get started. Every kind of existence that is assumed outside the realm of percept and concept must be relegated to the sphere of unjustified hypothesis. To this category belongs the thing in itself. It is quite natural that a dualistic thinker should be unable to find the connection between the world principle which he hypothetically assumes and the things given in experience. A content for the hypothetical world principle can be arrived at only by borrowing it from the world of experience, and then shutting one's eyes to the fact of the borrowing. Otherwise, it remains an empty concept, a non-concept which has nothing but the form of a concept. Here the dualistic thinker usually asserts that the content of this concept is inaccessible to our knowledge. We can know only that such a content exists, but not what it is that exists. In both cases, it is impossible to overcome dualism. Even though one were to import a few abstract elements from the world of experience into the concept of the thing in itself, it would still remain impossible to derive the rich concrete life of experience from these few qualities which are, after all, themselves taken from perception. Dubois-Reymond considers that the imperceptible atoms of matter produce sensation and feeling by means of their position and motion, and then comes to the conclusion that we can never find a satisfactory explanation of how matter in motion produce sensation and feeling, for it absolutely and forever incomprehensible that it should be other than indifferent to a number of atoms of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and so on, how they lie and move, how they lay and moved, or how they will lie and will move. It is impossible to see how consciousness could come into existence through their interaction. This conclusion is characteristic of this whole trend of thought. Position and motion are abstracted from the rich world of percepts. They are then transferred to the notional world of atoms, and then astonishment arises that real life cannot be evolved out of this self-made principle borrowed from the world of percepts. And we have paragraph 4 summarized as follows. Anything that is assumed outside the realm of percept and concept must be relegated to the sphere of unjustified hypothesis, and the concept of thing in itself belongs here. So in paragraph 4, Steiner talks about how the concept of thing in itself is considered something that is an unjustified hypothesis, because for him, anything that is outside the realm of percept and concept must be considered unjustified hypothesis, because basically everything can be categorized as either a percept or a concept, and he believes that it is normal for these dualistic thinkers for them to be unable to find this connection that between the world principle that he hypothetically assumes, which is thing in itself, and the things given in experience, because obviously for Steiner, thing in itself is an unreal concept. I mean, it's not something with which we can base our understanding of the world upon. And he also believes that the dualistic thinker gets to this concept of thing in itself by borrowing from the world of experience, which is the world of percepts, but then at the same time they're completely ignoring the fact that they're doing this borrowing. So, I mean, thing in itself is sort of a percept for them, but they don't really see that it is, and they don't really want to admit that they're borrowing. And it is a non-concept. It's and then they make this non-concept into something that is inaccessible to our knowledge. So basically they're creating this self-made boundary, and it's really non-existent, because what is a thing in itself? It's a concept about things, of how we know the world, but it really has no basis in reality, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, for Steiner, something is either a percept or a concept. It can't be beyond that. the possibilities we have. And these people who come up with this concept of thing in itself don't realize that it is just a concept that they created, and there really is no basis on reality. And that's basically the main point in paragraph 4. So I'm going to move on to paragraph 5. That the dualist can reach no explanation of the world, working as he does with a completely empty concept of the it's in itself of a thing, follows at once from the very definition of its principle given above. And the summary for 5 is, the dualist can reach no explanation of the world, as his premise is based on an empty concept of thing in itself. So here again, Steiner's just repeating what he's mentioned earlier, that the concept thing in itself is an empty concept. And I'm going to move on to 6. In every case, the dualist finds himself compelled to set impassable barriers to our faculty of knowledge. The follower of a monistic world conception knows that everything he needs for the explanation of any given phenomena in the world must lie within this world itself. What prevents him from reaching it can only be accidental limitations in space and time, or defects of his organization, that is, not of human organization in general, but only of his own particular one. And the summary for 6 is, for the dualist, they always experience barriers in their faculty of knowledge, whereas the monist knows that everything he needs for an explanation in the world must lie in this world. What prevents are space, time, and one's own organizational defects. So basically, he's saying here, the dualist sort of has a pessimistic view of things. They feel like, well, we'll never know, because we have this whole thing in itself. We'll never be able to attain to that whole level of thing in itself. It's just impossible. So it's creating this barrier that doesn't even exist. It's making hardships for themselves, and they don't realize that they're creating this problem in their thinking. And the monist conception believes that everything that we need in this world to understand this world must be in it. So it's a little bit more optimistic. And for a monist, they believe that what would keep me from getting this knowledge about things that I may be stumped upon is just, my own individual organization, because we're all, some of us have better organizations than others, and, it may be where I am located, versus someone who lives on the other side of the world. Maybe it's easier for them to gain this knowledge, whereas for me, it's different. So it's not, it's just based on my own personal organization where I am located. And it could be not just space, but time too, because someone from 50 years ago may have had a harder time to figure out certain knowledge that now is mainstream. So for a monist, they believe that what keeps us from reaching these limitations are really just based on space and time, or their own defects of their organization, like how they perceive things or in their thinking or whatnot. So that's what he's saying in paragraph 6. So I'm going to end it right there, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Bye.